Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, it truly was a sensation that changed not only the nation, but the world over. And guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. You know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are listening, keep listening and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere, places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, God knows we would appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably some other places too that I've forgotten about. And In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us the ultimate kindness, coming by and pay us a visit. On this episode, we are dialing it back to the 1980s via our favorite streaming service, Apple TV Plus, with the show Physical, starring the one and only Rose Byrne, about the rise of the world of aerobics. It's a bit of a dark comedy. It's got a lot of edge to it, but it's smart and it's funny as hell. And again, it's one of those shows that if you don't know about it already, you should check it out because you'll just get sucked into it thanks to a really great performance by Rose Byrne. But as you can imagine, in a show about sort of the rise of aerobics, there's a lot of movement, which means we need a choreographer. And we got the chance to talk to one of the choreographer of the show to just get a little bit of insight on how you do something like this. And this one along Jennifer Hamilton. And, we talked about sort of getting the job and sort of the art of movement, really, because, there's research, you've got to get everything sort of hit a time period, and there's still got to be stuff going on. It's like, it's a lot more than just coming up with the routines. It's coming up with sort of historically correct routines to sort of fit the spandex and the vibe of the time, but they all do a great job. It's a great show, and it is Emmy nominated. That she is Emmy nominated for choreography. So, like I said, if you want to go check out Physical on Apple TV Plus, you should, because great. But first, enjoy our talk with choreographer Jennifer Hamilton, because, like I said, she is Emmy nominated, and it's a darn good talk. I enjoyed it. I know you will too. All right. Well, Jennifer. I mean, just first off, I just want to say thank you so much for the time today, and I mean, just congrats on your work on the show. It's fantastic.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Now, I mean, obviously, congrats on the nomination, but I mean, I'm always curious how people sort of get into something like this because obviously, when you see this show, it definitely feels that part of your job almost has to be sort of research and combing through old Jane Fonda tapes and seeing not just figuring out how to make moves, but like how people were dancing and how the moves were happening. It's definitely kind of a bit of a different beast than you just kind of doing your own thing.
Yes, I mean, for this particular time period, the 80s, I mean, I did grow up in the 80s, so I did remember a lot of movement, and I remember watching my mother in my living room doing like jazzercise in the 80s. So, but yes, of course, with any period piece, I do my research all the time. And that's part of the fun is being able to like go back and see how, what the moves looked like and how they approached them and just kind of, and this time period for me, the 80s was so much fun. So much fun.
How much I mean, I guess I'm looking for the right word because I mean, I can imagine on one end you want to stay true to the period, but at the same time you want to give it your own flair too. Like how do you manage to sort of keep meld the two?
Well, I think it's a great question. For this project in particular, because I was dealing with really one main character that has a journey and it has like the aerobic and she's the aerobics instructor. Like we really needed to develop Rose's vocabulary to play Sheila in terms of movement. So that kind of helped because knowing her character and knowing the type of person that her character is in the show, and kind of drawing from that, and then learning Rose and her body type and what she looks like and what her capabilities are and what looks good on her body, that really helped to kind of refine and curate the vocabulary for Sheila. And from there, it was kind of it was great because then I knew where to go with it, and then it didn't look like everybody else's work in the 80s, or just like all these exercise moves that anybody could do. We kind of took it to another level, and she had her own kind of style about it. And it was fun too, because then we would name all of the work, like name all of the moves, and we came up with some pretty funny things, which was also just kind of fun along the way.
How was it in terms of, I can imagine, because obviously you, like you say, you get to work closely with Rose to sort of develop who Sheila was, but at the same time, then Sheila has to go out and teach people. And you can't exactly have it be exactly the same as Sheila does. It has to be like people are trying to copy what Sheila does, but not actually doing it. Does that
Yeah.
make any sense?
Yeah, totally. And that was the challenge. I mean, I think the good news for that too is that, I teach a lot of dance too, and I have over the years. So it's not aerobics, but
Right.
it's the same kind of format where you're kind of cueing people and you're counting and you're talking while you're counting and talking while you're instructing. And so I think because of that, and then me being able to be with Rose and do that for her, she was able to start to do that as Sheila for her crowd of class. So I think that that really helped. And then, and Rose is such a professional too, that she just is such a talented actress and so very smart that she was she would ask a lot of questions. She really paid attention to how I would instruct, and then she would kind of get into her rhythm of how she instructed. And then, yeah, we kind of just went from there. It was great, but it is tricky because, and then the first season was really interesting because we had just a lot of background in the crowd, and so the only person I was really working with, I wasn't even working with all of those people in the crowd for her classes. It was just with Rose and with one other actress, Della Saba, who played Bunny. So really, I would just work with Rose, and then Rose would turn around and just show it, and they would have to pick it up in real time. Like there wasn't a rehearsal period for those people. It changed a little bit over seasons 2 and 3 once we put more dancers in the mix and there was more dance material and aerobics material. But like with the first season, that's how that went.
But I mean, I think even through all the seasons, I mean, I think that's kind of what got me into it because in many ways, it it's I can imagine the temptation to make it all look sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 and perfect and smooth was there, but it wasn't. There had to be a little bit of a rough edge here or there. And I mean, I think for me as a viewer, I kind of appreciated that because it got me more into sort of the overall arc of the story. Like for you, how important was it to leave a little rough edge here or there, especially when you're staging some of these bigger pieces?
I appreciate that comment so much and thank you because that was so important for me, and for Annie and for Stephanie. So Annie's our showrunner and creator of this beautiful piece of work, and Stephanie was our main director. And yeah, like we wanted it to play real, like it couldn't be too polished, and it was. I paid attention to that a lot, and so the fact that that played to a viewer, I think that that's like, oh my gosh, what a blessing. And so yeah, like I would not want to rehearse too much, I wouldn't want, like, even when we had dancers in the room, I was like, nope, like you get to see it a couple times and then we're leaving it alone. Like we're not perfecting it here, and so it was hard, of course, because my eye wants it all perfect, but no, this wasn't that didn't call for that. We wanted it to look as real as possible and feel as real as possible. So in the ways that we did that was we had really limited rehearsal time with dancers. I had a lot more time with Rose over the seasons.
Does because I mean, I look through your all your screen credits and I'm kind of fascinated because you've had the chance to work on some pretty interesting shoots because these are all shoots where things aren't supposed to look perfect. They're supposed to look a little
Yeah.
helter skelter. Like Southland Tales is supposed to look a little helter skelter. Luminous Sunshine is supposed to look a little helter skelter. I mean, Donnie Darko is supposed to look a little helter skelter. How formative has sort of, I guess, for you to sort of be able to
put things on screen that look real as opposed to, like we said before, sort of overtly polished.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting, like your path as a choreographer, and for whatever reason, these types of projects always, not that I can't do the polished stuff, but these are always coming into my path. And I think what I maybe attribute it to is because I really love working with story and working with like telling a story through movement. And I feel like, a lot of times then that's why I'm given the piece that I'm given to do, where it's motivating the story along and it's motivating its script. It's not just like throwing a dance number in the middle of a TV show or a movie, that's more flashy and just more, it's supposed to be perfect. So I really have loved doing that over the years, and it's so fun to work with actors, like, and to really develop who they are and develop their character through movement. And I think, I don't know, just maybe because I love it so much, it keeps coming back into my universe, and I'm totally fine with it.
No, I mean, I've got to ask, this is pure curiosity more than anything else, but you did choreography work on a Terrence Malick documentary? I've got to hear that story because like one and the other don't seem to always marriage, but I need to hear it.
I have the best story about this too, and so I'll share it if you don't mind. But
Please.
so yes, one of Terry's old producing partners, and I have known each other for a very long time, and he came to me and he said, Terry needs some help on just some movement of like early man. And I'm like, okay, like that definitely required research. And I had to talk to like some scientists and professors in Texas, and that was a whole new ride for me. And it was kind of nerve-wracking because I'm like, what am I going to bring to the table for this guy? And like, I need to really like, I wanted to come so prepared with it. And the work was minimal, but it was very important. And why it was important is because Terry as a director is so meticulous and so detailed, and the way he shoots is so beautiful, and he has like scenes kind of constructed, but then they kind of take on their own life. So the rehearsal process for that project was very interesting, and I had to kind of give into the moment and kind of know all of the research and draw from all of that when I was on set and in rehearsal, so that whatever I got thrown at me, I was just able to kind of roll with it. Because Terry's like that. It's like, you never know where you're going to be going. And I'm like, all right, I just got to be prepared for anything. And so, but he doesn't talk to you a lot. At least he didn't talk to me a lot. And so half the time I was like, does he like me? Does he not like me? What's happening here? And then I just did my work. And I remember one day, and he came up to me, and I was, uh, and I thought he was going to ask me this amazing question about like, choreography and how I could help set up the shot. And he looked at me and he goes, "Are those red vines?" I had red vines. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I have one?" It's like, yeah, yeah, Terry, you can. And it was hilarious. I was like expecting like, okay, this is my moment where he's going to like ask me this major question. I'm going to be so ready for it. And so that was hilarious. And then cut to, he wrote me the most amazing quote ever in life. And I didn't realize what I had brought and meant to him on his project. So it happened to end really well, but it was a cool.
That's amazing. I mean, and just a good tale out there. Like if you're going to be around a god of cinema, make sure you got red vines in your pocket.
Yeah.
Just in case.
It was great, but he's a lovely man. I
But I
really
mean,
enjoyed it.
something I've always been curious about, and I'm always going to ask, how does your job change from when you're staging something for the screen and obviously the camera versus when you're staging something for a live event, or even conversely, then when you're staging something for a live event that's going to be on television?
Yes, I mean, it's well, you have to, luckily I've been around long enough, so I know how each one works. I mean, with your live performances, you need everything to just play wide, right? And play really big so that everybody has an opportunity to see it. With camera, you have the opportunity to have, cuts and edits and go close and go tight and go like all these different size shots and wipes across the camera. So you can design a much different type of a piece, and do it a bunch of times, right? And live, that's it, one time, but yes. And then for something like the Oscars, it is still live. So it's like you can design it for camera, and sometimes you have, we'll have camera rehearsals but those cameras move much differently than it would for film or for TV. It's just with the setups, everything's set up differently in each realm.
Preference at the end of the day, or
And
is it just a different challenge every time?
it's always a different challenge. But I love that. And I think that's what always keeps it exciting. And why I love what I do is because I can be thrown into different worlds and, do an episodic here, do a commercial there, be on a film here, go do a live show there. And then you kind of get, yeah, I mean, when you're jumping, you have to be like, okay, wait, what's going, okay, right. We're resetting for this moment in this world. Okay. And then that helps, to kind of reset and take you into whatever challenge is in front of me.
Now, I'm curious, what got you into this business? Because I mean, obviously you've got some on-screen credits as well, but I mean, sometimes they're just as dancer number one or choreographer. I mean, where has your sort of career arc always been dance and behind the scenes, or has there ever been sort of in front of the camera aspirations?
I started out in front of the camera. So I started dancing when I was 4. And that's what I've been doing my whole entire life. When I was about 12, I started dancing in the industry. And I dance, that was the whole front part of my career from like 12 well into my 20s and 30s. I did a lot of dance on camera. I was a dancer, which was great. Like I got to do all the Austin Powers, like the whole trilogy of Austin Powers, which was so fun. I was like a teenager into my early 20s doing all 3 of those movies, which was so iconic and such a special time. And then I started transferring and I assisted a choreographer and became her right-hand man for many, many years, named Marguerite Derricks, and she's my mentor. And I learned so much from her and did everything with her. And then I went off on my own and started doing choreography, many years ago. And then it just started to develop from there. So I've always been in, dance is always around. And I still dance. I own a dance studio here in Los Angeles. And so I'm dancing and teaching all the time. Um, and then choreographing on projects.
Now, I've always viewed that the art of dance is a storytelling layer in and of itself, like with the image, with the music, but the art of movement on top of that is such an evocative form of actually how to tell a story, whether it's with dialogue or music or not. From your perspective, what is it about the art of dance that makes for such a good way to tell stories?
Because you're speaking without talking,
Yeah.
and it's so powerful. And the biggest compliment I can get, like kind of what you alluded to earlier when I was so appreciative how you took physical as a viewer, but when someone that doesn't dance, can feel touched and feel engaged and understand what you're trying to say through movement without talking, I think is like the most beautiful thing. It's a language, and so that's the most beautiful part about it is like I can just say what I need to say for a character or for me or for a dancer that I'm, choreographing on, and we don't have to say a word at all, and it can still be communicated to an audience and communicated and it can get through to people. And I think just like the mind body connection and just being able to use your body to do and tell something is yeah, it's quite exquisite.
Well, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I mean, honestly, just thank you not only for the time, but I mean, your work on the show here as well. I mean, your work with Rose and sort of getting Sheila out there, because I
Yeah.
mean, again, it could have just been in her in the silly tights and it would have been that, but it just the way it all comes together, it's really this interesting sort of character study of just this person finding herself even in sort of the most ridiculous of ways, which, the 80s had some silly shit going on, but
Oh
we
my God, yeah.
the show owns it and I love it.
Yeah, great. I'm so glad you love it. Yeah, and as a male viewer too, because I know that it's a really female-driven show with like a lot of things that we as women deal with in our heads and go through. So I appreciate that. I think that's great that it
Well,
also
and no,
resonated for you.
it wasn't trying to be overtly preachy. It was being sort of very honest to the female experience, at least from my perspective, which I appreciated. It wasn't standing on a soapbox. It was really trying to give us something honest and earnest and putting it out front. And I really think that everyone involved in the show does a great job with that.
Great. Wonderful. Yeah, it was a great team. I'm sad it's over, but it was a great three seasons, man. So much fun.
Now, I mean, I guess the final question is: are you going to get to go to the big Emmy award thing? I've never understood sort of the technical awards. Like, do you get to walk a carpet? Like, what's the whole rigmarole with that?
I mean, I'm assuming you get to walk a carpet. This is my first nomination, so I guess I'll see. But we go the week before the real Emmys, and
Right.
Yeah, but no, we still get to dress up and still go to an event and still, get an award like everybody else. So I'm looking forward to it. I just, it's incredible to even be not nominated and mentioned. So I'm happy
Well,
for that.
enjoy the ride, Jen. It should be a hell of a lot of fun. And
Thanks.
thank you so much for the time.
Nice, Dave, talking to you. Thanks
All
so
righty.
much.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.